Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Genshin Impact Chronicle. Last episode, we left off with the rebellion being successful in ending Decarabian's tyrannical rule over Mondstadt. Mondstadt finally obtained their freedom after Decarabian's death, but what happened next? Well, let's find out! As we briefly discussed last episode, the small wind spirit that had assisted in the rebellion gained power and ascended to godhood, becoming Barbatos and one of the Seven, and the Animo Archon. Barbatos moved Mondstadt City to where we are all familiar with it today by Cider Lake. After seeing that his people were well established, Barbatos decided to leave so he wouldn't become a tyrant himself. However, by doing so, he unknowingly gave rise to other tyrants in his absence. Prominent clans rose up in Mondstadt, such as the Gunhilder and Lawrence clans. However, the Lawrence clan became the dominant clan, but turned corrupt and began to control the people. Sound familiar? People were enslaved, and anything that could lead to the truth was hidden. Even knowing about history in the past was forbidden. This is where we meet the heroine of this story, Vennessa. If you've read the Genshin manga, then you should be very familiar with Vennessa's story. Vennessa and her clan would roam the land, and they only ended up in Mondstadt because they were being stalked and hunted by an evil dragon, Ursa the Drake. However, instead of freedom, Vennessa's clan was actually enslaved and imprisoned by the aristocrats of that time. Vennessa in particular became a gladiator of sorts, fighting battles in the arena as a way to gain freedom for her people. She was named the Lion Fang Knight because she could not be defeated in battle. However, there was an incident that happened during Ludi Harpastum, a holiday, a festival of sorts in Mondstadt that drastically changed Vennessa's life. So one of the events in Ludi Harpastum is where a young lady will be atop a tower and she will throw down a harpastum, which is kind of like a ball. She will throw that down and then someone will catch the ball. Well, ever since the aristocrats rose up, and in particular the Lawrence clan, the rules have slightly changed. Instead of everyone having a chance to get the ball, it was generally only caught by one person, and that was Barca Lawrence. He was the one who would catch the ball year after year, and he was always the winner. Now, there happened to be a bard in town named Venti. He saw and learned about what was happening during Ludi Harpastum, and he did not like that. He thought that this was incredibly unfair and unjust, and so he decided to put a stop to it. So when the ball was thrown by the young lady atop the tower, he was able to grab it first before Barca Lawrence. Now, as you can imagine, this greatly irked Mr. Lawrence, and a chase ensued. During this chase, Venti happened upon Vennessa, who was in town buying some herbs for her ill sister. Upon seeing her, Venti decided to quickly hide behind Vennessa. Now, when Barca Lawrence saw this, he obviously knew about Vennessa and about her title as the Lion Fang Knight. He couldn't really do anything, so he left in a huff. But that didn't stop him from getting even with Vennessa. After that incident, Vennessa and her clan were ultimately bought and imprisoned by the Lawrence clan. Now, once this happens, Vennessa discovers that her final battle towards her freedom would be against none other than Ursa the Drake. That's right, the same dragon that was hunting her and her clan earlier on. Now, she also realizes that her entire clan will be fighting with her instead of just her fighting by herself. The Lawrence clan gave her no choice but to accept the fight, as they would kill any of her clan who tried to escape. However, this revelation started an uproar with the common people. So in addition to Vennessa's freedom, the keys to the city were also added as a way to appease the people. Vennessa and her people fought bravely, though they knew very well they might all perish in the fight, as Ursa the Drake was a mighty dragon and brought with it hilichurls as extra fighting power. The day was won, however, when the Animo Archon Barbados returned to Mondstadt and helped Vennessa defeat the mighty dragon. Vennessa ultimately ended up gaining the keys to the city, and Mondstadt was now under her control. She overthrew the aristocracy and led Mondstadt into a new era. She established the Knights of Favonius as the protective order for Mondstadt and became their first Grand Master and Dandelion Knight. Vennessa ultimately ascends to Celestia and takes on the form of a falcon. And like we discussed in the last episode where Andreas became one of the 4 winds, Vennessa also became one of the 4 winds. Whew, man, what an amazing part of Mondstadt's history. But you know what time it is. It is time for Theories of Teyvat. Let's talk about Ursa the Drake. Now, we don't have much information on this dragon or its origins. We do know from the manga that it was eventually slain by the Fatui harbinger Il Dottore. Ursa the Drake doesn't appear to be an elemental dragon. Elemental dragons are incredibly strong and powerful, so much so that Archons even have trouble defeating them. Ursa the Drake, however, was felled by a Fatui harbinger. So, where did this dragon come from? It certainly lived a long life, as we'll see in future episodes. This dragon does make a reappearance. Now, it could just be a normal dragon that was a nuisance. Or is there something more sinister about its origins? Was it created? Was it influenced by people or organizations with ulterior motives? We may never know the story of Ursa the Drake unless Genshin decides to expand on that topic in the future. But for now, put your theories in the comments below. I would love to know what everybody else thinks about this dragon. That's it for this episode, folks. I hope you enjoyed discussing Mondstadt's rich history with me. While it hasn't always been a happy one, Mondstadt's past made it what it is today, and that's the City of Freedom we know and love. But we're not done with Mondstadt just yet. Coming up in the next episode, we'll get to talk about a figure that has been central to Mondstadt's history. Who could that be? Well, I'll give you a hint. He's apparently pretty tone-deaf. Until next time, Ad Astra Abyssosque, travelers.